During 1990 to 1998, neoliberal hegemony spread across Latin America with structural reforms that were characterized by growing inequalities in the society. They were followed by the so-called left-turn revolutions that started with the 1998 presidential victory of Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. On the other side of the bluff, the 2000 bulldozer revolution in Serbia marked the beginning of the color revolutions in the former Soviet states that were seeking to end the post-communist authoritarian regimes. One of the reasons of the color revolutions was the discontent of the population and the younger generations that spoke up through university national movements like Outpour, also the support from the West and the promise of the integration to the European Union after the democratization process. The first reason for the revolutions in Latin America was the consequences of the neoliberal reforms that grew inequalities in the society and a huge gap in poverty in the population. Just a small portion did benefit from these reforms. The nationalist movements seeking regional integration and nationalization of natural resources, and the promise to undo the neoliberalism reforms, even though most of the center left governments had to accept the economic models they have fought against the opposition. The similarities, the first one is the non-violent popular protest in the color revolutions in Serbia, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan. The opposition succeeded because of their not violent mass movements that eventually made the military and security troops to despair. In Latin America, the transition also happened via elections and peaceful movements, even in Venezuela, that was distinguished for the electoral model of transition backed by the military. The opposition background related to the old regimes. In Ukraine and Georgia, the leadership of the Orange Revolution in 2004 and the Rose Revolution in 2003 was allied to the presidents. They were members of an old regime that were helped to take down. In Latin America, Hugo Chavez was part of the Venezuelan military forces during the military coup of 1992, and years later he would run to president against the American supported governments. The nationalist candidates that led the revolution or regime change, such as Kostunica in Serbia, Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, and Evo Morales in Bolivia, that would seek a nationalist policy, and also the support of the working class and minorities. In the bulldozer revolution, the industrial workers that at a certain point were a core of socialist regime struck against Milosevic and supported Kostunica. In Venezuela, the indigenous minorities and laborers were the core of the Bolivarian movement. Now, the differences. The main differences between both movements is the main goal. The color revolutions were looking for a democratization process and better opportunities for its population, with the economic aid from the Department of State that was promoting democracy through peaceful movements such as Outport in the Balkans, while in Latin America they were looking for new reforms, social programs, and an alternative option to end with an American supported governments that marked the history of a region for many decades, while only benefiting a small group of the population, growing inequalities, and regional integration as a replacement for the American hegemony.